write in the book of something that happened in 2021. You had just gotten back from a trip in Vail, Colorado, and you had an unusual night. Can you take me back into what happened?
Yeah, I had been at like the height of some major career moments, and I was on the mountaintop, right? And I was dying on the inside. And I got back from the trip. It was a horrible trip, absolutely horrible trip. And I got home and I had been having these really bad panic attacks. I couldn't go to the grocery store. All I could do was go to work and come home because I could only play the character for so long that everything was fine. I'm great. And I remember I got home and it was like the middle of the night and I had I was having nonstop panic attacks and I just felt like this is never going to end. I'm going to keep waking up feeling like I'm in prison, and I actually tried to take my life. And I remember I was like, I was sitting in the end of my bed and I was just like, I need to go. I need this to stop. I can't do this anymore. And also like, I don't want to let anyone down anymore. And all I felt like I was doing was letting people down. And I couldn't write a letter because my hands was shaking so bad. So I was like, well, it's 3 a.m. It was like 3:02. I was going to go leave a message on my mom's phone to just say, hey, I'm sorry. I love you. It's not your fault. I just can't do this anymore. Because I had thought I was going to let people down because there was someone I was dating at the time. When we were in Colorado, I had this horrible panic attack. And I remember looking at him and he's like, are you done? Like, get it together. Like, you need to just like, he goes, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to go. Like, you need to get your shit together. He's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I figure it out. So he was very much like, he was not jumping in the water to help me. And then I said, I was like, I'm not okay. And I'm really scared something bad's going to happen. And I'll remember it to the day I die. He looked at me. He's like, what the fuck do you want me to do about it? He's like, figure it out. I was like, okay, so this is how people are going to perceive you're supposed to be my safe space. If I asked for help and then no one can help me. And I was like, and frankly, that response is way worse than me just disappearing. And so I was like, I don't want to deal with that again. I don't want to feel like I'm disappointing everyone, because mental health, you're just drowning and you don't need someone to tell you that you can swim and to get your shit together. You need someone to jump in the water and just remind you that you can swim and be willing to swim with you to get to the other side. And I didn't realize I had people that were willing to jump into the water. And so I remember I'm calling her and I'm leaving and I'm like, I was just about to hang up because I was like, I don't want to do this. And I was like, I'm done. And she picked up and she happened to be awake. And so she looked at her phone and saw it buzzing. And because her ringer was off, she picked up the phone and I was like, shit. She like picked up the phone. And at that point I was like, I can't hide this anymore. I said, I'm not okay. I'm done. And in that moment, she could have freaked out. She could have said all the thing. And I was like, look, as soon as she says the thing, I'm done. And she just said, okay, what do you need? And she just talked with me. And she says, it's okay to not be okay. And I was like, it is? Like, that was like a groundbreaking, like finally she just jumped in the water. And that phone call, she just jumped in the water and said, it's okay to not be okay, but let's figure this out. Let's talk this through. And she just met me with such love. And like, it was like she was hugging me through the phone and she just met me where I was instead of telling me where I should be or I have too much going for me to be so unhappy. And it was just like, finally someone jumped in the water and finally, I'm going to cry about this. Finally, like someone saw me drowning and didn't look at me like I was the biggest disappointment. And she jumped in and she stayed on the phone with me all night until the sun came up. And then she was like, look at that sunrise. Like, all right, let's figure this out. Got in the car, drove 2.5 hours down to me. And when she got to my house, like it was very apparent because I had been hiding it from everyone how bad I was struggling, but I'd lost all this weight. There was no food in my fridge. Like I was really like, I was in a rough way. And instead of judging me, all of a sudden, like my dad happened to always have, work calls in Connecticut. So he was visiting once a week and bringing meals for me. And then my mom and I made a plan. I started working with a trauma specialist. I started going to therapy. I started just having like my team assembled and they never judged me. Like my mom, my dad, like they just met me with love. And my mom was like, we're going to figure this out. like, we're going to figure this out. And she goes, and I'm with you. And it was like, all you need, you don't need someone to tell you all the things you need to do or you should be doing. You just need someone to say, I'm here. And that saved my life. And that really, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. But it started this path of healing that, you know, all of a sudden I started getting help. I started realizing living in a constant state of panic and anxiety, that's not normal. Being sad all the time and numb, that's not normal. And like, you can find healing. You can find resources and tools. And then as I was going on this healing journey, I realized how many other people are drowning in plain sight like me. So I started asking my friends, how are you? And I would ask twice. The second time around was a different answer. And then I was like, what do you need? How can I be there for you? And then I started sharing my tools. And then I was looking for a resource. I couldn't find one. And I was like, all this toxic positivity telling you to snap fingers and get up doesn't work. If you're struggling so badly, you don't need someone to say, get your butt out of bed. You have so much to, you need someone to just sit there and be like, okay, let's figure this out. Or you're not crazy for crying or for feeling that way. And so I think I was searching for resources for myself, but also for my friends, only for my mom to say, I think your answer is in your question. Like, create the resource, be that friend. And I remember I didn't want to write another book, but I was like, I had this epiphany about 2 years later. We were on a family trip, and no, it was 3 years later, actually. We were on a family trip, and I remember my therapist was like, I want you to watch the sunrise. And I was like, ma'am. And she goes, no, get up. You're going to be on the beach. Go watch the sunrise. And I get up in the morning, and we have a big household with a lot of tiny humans. Everyone was asleep. And so I'm like, she's making me go watch the sunrise. And I went out and I sat on the rock. And all of a sudden, like, I had my Grinch moment where his heart starts to grow. And I was like, what am I feeling? And all of a sudden, I'm like ugly crying and laughing because I just, for the first time, felt happy. And it wasn't because of an accomplishment. It wasn't because of what I had, what I didn't have. It was nothing other than the fact that I was watching the sunrise, and it was a beautiful sunrise, and there was sand in my feet, and I was just there in my favorite sweatshirt. And I remember being like, wow, this therapy, this healing stuff like works. Like, people need to know about this. Like, you can have a quiet brain, and you can have the simple joy of a sunrise, like, that is attainable. So then that became inspiration, among other things, of realizing, okay, you can go from rock bottomville to actually finding your way out. Like, that's not the death sentence. That's not the way your story ends. But also, maybe not everyone has someone that's going to pick up the phone at 3 a.m. So I was like, let me create a resource that's saying, hey, friend, I get it. I'm here with you. Maybe they'll pick up the book. And that's really what it kind of all transpired into from that moment, from that absolute breakdown, the breakthroughs that followed once again.
Had your mom not answered the phone, what do you think would have happened?
I wouldn't be here. Like, I know for a fact I wouldn't be here. Wow. Yeah. It was happening, and she stopped me. Or I wasn't on a cliff, but metaphorically speaking, like, she stepped on there with me and then gave me a reason to stay. Mm-hmm.
And you had battled these suicidal thoughts before, I know.
For years, yeah.
And you hadn't let anyone in on this?
Not really, no. I think there was times where people suspected something was wrong, but I kept myself so busy, and I had a really good smile to hide behind that I just very much was like, no, I'm great. Everything's great. But it's funny because even me now, like, I'm so different than a few years ago, where I'm so present. And as my dad says, you have a twinkle, and you have your silliness, and you're dancing, and you're all the things that we know and love about you is back. But all that had slowly disappeared, that I didn't give anyone time to actually see how I was doing, except for one particular person who, there's a reason my family calls that person Voldemort. But
we all have a Voldemort.
We all have a Voldemort, yeah. I mean, my friends have come up with worse names. I was like, let's stick with Voldemort. He's a pretty evil dude.
Okay,
but
good. But
it was, literally. But it was but that was, I think, like, it was, and then when I did start talking about it, I think everyone was like, okay, we all suspected, but we didn't know. And even the suicide attempt, like, no one actually knew until right before the book came out. I kind of sat down some of my friends and my family, because only my mom knew, no one else knew, and said, hey, this is what happened. And so they're like, it changed all of our perspectives of, no, check on your friend, check on the brightest smile in the room, because it's not the obvious people that end up in that position. It's the ones who have to just be strong for so long that are slowly eroding at the surface.
Right. Because people think you've got it all.
Yeah. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I got it all at the height of getting it all was when I wanted to end it all.
Wow. Was it difficult for you to share that in the book?
I didn't want to. I have this amazing editor, Andrea. She called me and we were talking and she goes, I want to know about your why. She had a way of kind of being Yoda to me. And then she'd get me talking and then I would go into these writing like caves. And I shared with her, I said, all right, I'm going to tell you something. And when I shared that story with her, and then I had said to her, I said, not everyone's going to have someone that's going to jump in the water. I want to be that someone for someone else. And I said, but also not everyone's going to have someone pick up the phone. So maybe they pick up this book. And she goes, that's why you need to share that. If you're comfortable, but that's why you need to share that, because I think we don't talk enough about, mental health. Everyone goes, oh, mental health. And I'm a self-help person, or I'm this, and it's, but when you've hit that bottom, you can relate on a whole different level. And I'm like, no, it's not. Snap your fingers and you're fine. It is work to show up for yourself, to show up when you're struggling so badly that I think my editor was like, and my book agent were like, you sharing that solidifies why this book is what it is, because there's someone out there that like you is at that point. And I'm like, I hope they don't get to that point. But by sharing that, it's like, no, I've been there, friend. And I don't want you to get there.